Russian president is here in the United States this week trying to establish deeper economic ties. He just visited Silicon Valley, and he's at the White House today. Russia's economy took an 8% hit in 2009. So is this R in the BRIC country bloc worth the risk of investing? We're joined by Chris Osborne, CEO of Troika Dialog USA, that company, Russia's oldest and largest private investment bank. Chris, thanks for coming in.
Good to be here.
With Russia, there is a tremendous amount of headline risk people perceive in terms of being able to once again access their money because of some past experiences with Yukos and the like. How do you reassure your institutional clients?
Well, our institutional clients are actually accustomed to investing in Russia. I think where those stories have an impact is on the marginal U.S. investors who are not in Russia now and sit out in the heartland, for example, and pick up newspapers and read stories like Yukos. And what we have to say to those folks is that the majority of risk that one encounters investing in Russia is pretty much typical emerging market risk. It's corporate governance, it's sort of accuracy of financial statements, and overall volatility.
Well, I suppose perhaps maybe it's those people that Russia's president is trying to pull into the fold today with this visit to the White House and trying to encourage more investment in Russia. Tell me how real the diversification story is, because Russia's tremendously leveraged to crude oil.
Yes. I think we have to separate the diversification story into two parts. One is what Medvedev is here to do. He's kind of the chief salesman for Russian Federation on this visit. He's trying to say, look, Russia, we know you think we're all about oil and gas and sort of metals and exporting natural resources. We also have a tremendously educated workforce, scientifically advanced, and they understand, especially in the collapse of 2008, they learned very well what it meant to be tied, have the economy tied primarily to the export of natural resources.
And we saw that with that economic contraction that we referenced at the beginning here in 2009. They're still working through that.
They are definitely, just like we are, but I should also point out that for the last 10 years, despite that contraction, they still have the fastest growing GDP among the BRIC countries, so even faster than China, for example.
So what stood out to me in looking over your notes here is that Germany is the largest investor in Russia. So how has the European debt crisis and all that jitteriness affected the flows into that country?
Well, foreign direct investment has definitely taken a hit. That's one of the reasons Medvedev is here. I believe that when he's meeting with Obama today in Washington, they'll announce the sale of about $3 billion worth of Boeing airplanes. And that's the kind of story really that needs to be told about Russia. I mean, here's a story that will actually create and maintain American jobs.
The defense spending.
Well, the Boeing planes are actually passenger airplanes.
Okay.
So people need to remember that GDP in Russia over the last 10 years has gone up some 4 or 5 times. Purchasing power of Russians has increased tremendously over the last 10 years, and certainly consumer goods companies and other foreign companies will often tell you that Russia is their most profitable market because of that purchasing power.
Now, there are a fair amount of skeptics out there, and beyond those people who may not, have the detail and exposure you do, also former, people who had worked in the government. Just today, the former Deputy Prime Minister spoke in an interview to Bloomberg and said he doesn't see a difference between Putin and the current president, Medvedev, and don't believe the diversification. There isn't one. What do you say to those critics?
You're referring to Mikhail Kasyanov. He's the former Prime Minister of Russia. He's in the opposition, and he's doing what folks in the opposition do, which is take shots at the current administration. It's very easy. It would be very easy for you and I to sit here and trade negative stories about Russia, as it would about the U.S. And I feel it's an obligation, personally and professionally, to tell a different story. In fact, diversification. We don't have to just look at the top-down effort that Medvedev is attempting now. Diversification can happen from the ground up. You have much lower rates than you had in the past. Inflation is down. Russian banks will start lending now in rubles at longer maturities at reasonable rates to companies that have never had access to that kind of credit before. So there can be an organic diversification of the Russian economy.
All right. Thank you very much for making that case. We wanted to look a little deeper.
You're welcome.